Bam! MC is in the house. What's going on, folks? My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Stream. I am here every Monday. I'm not here on Mondays. Don't show up on Monday. I'm here every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time for about an hour. I pick a topic to discuss and have a pretty good time doing that when I do. I'm going to give you guys a couple of moments to jump on. Those of you that are coming here for the first time to watch this, whether it's live or you're watching this as it's recorded, do me a favor and go to masterchim.com and put down your email so you can start getting my email newsletter. It is free. It is sent out every day. I always have a quote of the day. I always talk about some topic or, the goings on in my life and what I'm up to project wise and otherwise. It's a pretty good time. I never know when I'm going to be shadow banned, thrown off. I guess I'll tell this story at some point. I just got tossed from my commercial gym that I went to the other day. And I'm not going to get into too many specifics because it can get a little crazy, but maybe I'll talk about that later in the stream. But point being, if you get on the email list, it is a good way to stay connected with me. I just sent out we are doing the No Excuse November challenge, where every day in November we are doing 100 squats, 100 push-ups, and 100 sprawls. And I don't even know what my current number on Facebook is, but the Master Chim page, let me bring up the Master Chim page. The Master Chim page is now down to 48,000 followers. And I shared the picture, the graphic that I made for the No Excuse November. And out of 48,000 fans or members or followers of the Master Chim page, it has reached 293 people. So I understand there's also an algorithm game to be played, but I've built an intimate relationship with what it means to be shadow banned. So just pay attention to my emails, and you'll hear from me every day. So what's going on over here? Wade, what's going on, brother man? Corey, good to see you. Good afternoon to you. Joe, what's up, my man? And Alan, good to see you. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, welcome, and I'm glad you're doing so. Those of you that are watching on one of the Facebook pages, which, judging by the numbers I just went by, is probably next to nobody, do me a favor and still comment, still like the video, because even that is going to help, Facebook deem this more relevant, I guess. But I stopped trying to win the social media game a long time ago. But all that being said, I make sure that I stay connected with the people offline, usually through that email. So, Juan, what's up, brother man? Good to see Juan, one of my students in the Bronx. All right. So, all right, I'm going to load a video here. And oh, good, that's up there. And I'll cue that in a few minutes. But what I wanted to talk about today: product, process, and pain. So, I'm usually talking about society and all of its deficiencies and all the things that I see that people are basically messing up, and how to sort of get a little bit more control. I think one of the things, it's sort of what I do and how I talk about the things that I do. It sometimes, admittedly, it begs the question, well, if I think tribe is so important, and I think, we should not be investing or wasting resources outside of the wall of tribe, we should be looking to invest, through alliance building. It begs the question, well, why am I putting stuff out on social media all the time? Why, am I basically talking to a lot of strangers every time I do one of these videos, or even the email list goes out to thousands of people? I don't know all of those people. Um, I see people sometimes, admittedly, and I coach, to build a mindset against this. But even on my email list, when I see people unsubscribe from the list, which happens from time to time, you know, it's like, man, it's like, what did I say? Did I offend this person? But meanwhile, concurrently, there's times where I'll unsubscribe from lists just because I'm like, you know what? There's too much clutter here. I don't read it. I'll revisit it at another time or whatever the case is. So I'm always, grappling with these ideas and these concepts myself. I think that's the greater point here is that I talk about a lot of things formulaically, and I advocate for and prescribe a lot of tactics that I think individuals will benefit from. But I don't ever want to portray myself as somebody who has mastered all these things to the point where I am not using them on a daily basis, right? So, Judge Cohen, what's up, brother? So, product, process, and pain. So there is this general framework of that's used to describe usually the pursuit of goals and whatnot. And the label, this particular framework is product versus process, or process versus product, whichever. Um, and I wanted to define these things before I got started because I think it would be important. And being that I had a few minutes before this, I actually prompted some of these things. So let's talk about product first, right? So product is the end goal of one's efforts, the target of the process. Now, in my program, Mission Mastery, I talk about on the bumpy road video of that program. You can go to, well, all the relevant links are in the description and stuff. You can go to the Warrior Project and look at that Power Program video series if you want. But on Mission Mastery, I talk about the bumpy road. And one of the things I talk about is that a goal is little more than a target, right? A target is what it is that we are sort of aiming our efforts toward. The trajectory of our efforts are going to be aimed toward this particular goal, right? But that's what the goal is. A goal is a target, not to be confused with the actual journey, or what we could describe here as process, which I'll get into in a minute. But it's important to understand that when we want a product, a lot of times we conflate, we confuse the benefits that other people who have possessed. I just had a protein bar, excuse me. Other people who have possessed these products and the benefits that you observe these people also having, a lot of times we mistakenly attribute these benefits to the possession of that product, right? So it's important to understand not only what the product is, but the limitations of what a product is. The product is just the end goal. Now, if I am going to college because I have nothing better to do with my life, and at the end of that, or during I'm trying to get a degree, and I wind up getting the degree, well, that is the product, right? And it is limited in that. I'll give you another example. The black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I will be the first one to tell you, and it's it again, it's easy for me to say because I've been a black belt for so long. I don't give a shit about belts. I've made videos about this. I've made emails, about this. I've done blog posts and have done interviews about this. Like, I don't give a shit about belts. Belts was created to organize a hierarchy uh, in the business aspect of the schools when students become so abundant, right? There are so many students that the individual identities tend to get blurred away. So it's just an organizational tool, but it is often treated as the product that people are looking to achieve. When I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I will have all of these abilities, as an example. And it is not the black belt that gives you the abilities. So what happens is a lot of time the product winds up getting conflated with everything that led one there, right? So let's get to the process now. So the process is the actual pursuit of that product. It's fueled by your efforts, right? It's toward a target goal or what we say is the product. And it's not to be conflated, conversely, with what the product is. The process is the actual journey, the moment to moment, beat to beat, day to day, et cetera, series sequence of movements towards that end goal. Now, using the black belt analogy, what you'll have is you'll have individuals who they see somebody with a black belt, they see that, all the capabilities that that black belt possesses, and they will falsely attribute it to the black belt itself, not understanding that that is just a representation of the culmination of the process, that ended with the granting or the awarding of that belt. But it's the process itself, that one should be, connected to. So now, what's the value of this, and what's the context in which I'm bringing this up today? Because it's not just this, relationship between product and process I want to go over. There's so much other people who talk about this at length, but I'm bringing in pain to this, and I'm going somewhere with it. So so come along for the ride. But let's get into defining pain, right? So, pain is the level of discomfort at which point we discontinue current processes. Now, again, this is my definition of the term. It is how I use it in any formulas or relationships dynamics that I will describe later on. But it's the level of discomfort at which point we discontinue current processes. So we got to say, well, pain is not discomfort. Like, we would understand that on face value, but we really don't have a criteria by which one becomes the other. Because I would certainly say, I don't think it'd be controversial to say that, pain is the escalation of whatever the spectrum that discomfort is on. There's a certain point where discomfort becomes, I guess, so escalated or intense that we would now classify it as pain. And looking to attach that to something functionally, I see that threshold as when we decide, okay, this pain is now becoming the priority of my awareness. I never mind what I was doing that caused the pain at this point or discomfort. At this point, the discomfort has become so intense, it is now overshadowing what it is that I'm trying to do. And I would say that that is pain. Now, there are some people that'll say, yeah, but, you know, if, if I'm experiencing pain, there's plenty of times where I'm in pain, but I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do. So I don't agree with your definition. To which I would reply, well, then why are you calling it pain? Right? So, oh well, it's pain when it hurts. Well, we got to understand that that's subjective, right, by nature. So if we're trying to say that we are experiencing pain, but it is allowed to sort of remain in the abstract. Remember, that's one of the things that I sort of have designed and set my goal, my process toward, is eliminating the abstractions, in the definitions that help us design how we pursue our life. So when looking at pain, it's a discomfort that at some point becomes the priority of our awareness, right? If I am, let me give an example here. I am in a hot tub. And a hot tub, we want to be warm. We want to be hot. Hot tub. There's a certain point where it starts to become hotter. It starts to become so hot, we could say it's too hot, because it's now starting to take away from the experience of what we got into the hot tub for. I would say there's a point where we tell ourselves, well, the pursuit of the benefits of being in the hot tub are no longer my priority. This water is so hot, I need to get the fuck out of it. That is when we're experiencing pain by the criteria as listed and described in that definition, right? So when we understand what pain is, and we say pain is when we prioritize it and not what has led to it or what was going on when it came about, then we eliminate the need for that abstraction, right? That abstraction. So let me, all right, you're on Saxa. What's up, darling? Good to see you. Johnny Groove, what's up, brother man? So let me cue this individual here. And I hope this works. It should work. Maybe this is me being a little, hopefully there's no echo here.
People wonder why we need a union at Starbucks. And
so, first off, before I continue with this, guys got to let me know if you could hear that video as I'm playing it, right? Because I could hear it on my monitor, but I want to make sure you guys are hearing it. So just give me a thumbs up. Yes, we're hearing it. While I'm waiting on you guys to do that, this was a video that I think went viral over the last couple of days. And it is a woman who thinks she's a man who lives, I think, in probably like Seattle or some place like that. And she's going on about the pain that she's in and how she's so overwhelmed because she is understaffed and there are so many customers. And like, she works for a Starbucks and she is saying there's too many customers and there's not enough staff and she is not able. So I'm gonna play this. Let me start this again. Corey says audio's good. Awesome. So I'm going to restart it and let's have fun with this.
people wonder why we need a union at Starbucks. And I am literally about to quit. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but, like, I really want to. I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cried on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out. And there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers, and they're good. We don't have fair scheduling. Managers don't care about us. Our manager was supposed to come in this weekend, and he took himself off the schedule, so he wouldn't be able to be held accountable for calling out. He just literally tore down the schedule that he was scheduled on and put up a new schedule where he wasn't on the schedule. Also, he couldn't have even seen that he was scheduled in the first place because he didn't want to be held accountable for not wanting to come in. They don't want to help us. We need a union because this can't happen. This can't happen. We need fair scheduling. We need managers to hold themselves accountable for helping their workers. They refuse to turn mobile orders on. We need the liberty to be able to do that because there's so many mobile orders and I need to get through all of them. And then people are yelling at me because they don't have their orders ready and they don't know what to do. They can't do it. And a customer was misgendering me today, like really badly. I didn't have their order ready. And so they were just like talking like each other and they're like, she's clearly incompetent. I have a full mustache and beard.
You look like a hairy lesbian.
I don't get accommodations for being neurodivergent. I don't.
Neurodivergent.
I can't. People get mad at me for using my sick time. I don't even know what to do anymore. I'm like at my wits' end with this job. I really am.
All right. So that shit show. So yeah, we could get into the whole, tranny cross-dressing thing, but I'll save that. Not that I haven't spoken about it before, but it's not really the point of what I'm getting at today. Now, this young lady has such a dysfunctional relationship with what pain is. Remember, again, I will bring up the definition of pain. Pain is the level of discomfort at which point we discontinue current processes. So now there's something that happens when we are so fragile, so vulnerable, so sensitive that we identify discomfort as pain prior to what is necessary to live a functional life. Okay? So let me say that in another way. If you are too sensitive to do, and by sensitive, I mean fragile, to do what is necessary to support your life, then you are inherently dependent upon other people to take care of you. So now the thing is, when you have young ladies like that, that are that vulnerable, that are that, therefore, dysfunctional, just being who they are in this current state requires the resources of others. Now, you could see where, because of this dysfunctional level of pain, where it exists, you could see how there are going to be individuals who refuse to allocate any of their resources towards the maintenance of this individual's life. Now, when I say maintenance towards their life, like, just as an aside, I don't wish harm on this lady. Like, this girl needs help. She's obviously not getting it from her friends and family. She's obviously not in an environment that is helping her work on these deficiencies and these dysfunctional aspects of her personality and identity. But I don't wish any harm on her. This is a case study in what it looks like when, as society, because we become, and this is where it gets tied into the theme of today's talk, because you have a society that is so addicted to what they think the product is going to give them, they no longer invest in enduring the process, which is actually responsible for the value and merits of the product in the first place. Because they're not exposing themselves to the processes over time that give them these valuable products, goals, they are also now allowing themselves to develop a dysfunctional level of, or a dysfunctional relationship with discomfort, calling discomfort pain and reacting as it being pain prior to them even being a functional member of society. They are too weak to take care of themselves, therefore they need to be taken care of. So when I talk about all of the people who fall into that category, I label that category society's pets. And society's pets are just those individuals that can only survive on the allocated resources from others. Now, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, obviously, I think it's fucking terrible. But whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, oh, well, she needs help, she needs this, she's talking about unions and stuff. That stuff is usually all overlapped with it. The fact of the matter is, if we don't have a surplus as a society, all of these people die away. I don't wish that on anybody, right? Don't fucking get me banned, YouTube. But these people, because of their dysfunctional relationship with pain, are not able to be functional. All they want are products. None of them want processes because the processes hurt too much. And therein lies the rub. We have now a generation of individuals, right, who, not all of them, but more significant than any generation in history, a more significant percentage of them are now dysfunctional in their relationship with pain. Being a functional member of society hurts too much for these individuals. So now, what are we supposed to do? Obviously, we're not falling, victim or prey to that deficiency. We're functional members of society. Most people, they can't listen to me talk for more than 5 minutes without absolutely going crazy, if they are of that ilk. So I'm going to assume that there are a bunch of functional members here. But what it does, it allows us to see one end of the spectrum. That's what doing it wrong looks like. Doing it wrong is choosing the product over the process. Doing it wrong is allowing pain to be labeled early in the level or the spectrum of discomfort rather than later. That's what doing it wrong looks like. So I'm just arguing that doing it right is the opposite. Right? If we're creating, which way do I go? Do I go this way or that way? So I'm saying, well, that's obviously the wrong way. So what does the right way look like? The right way looks like the process over the product. In the Bumpy Road video on Mission Mastery on my power program, I talk about detours and power detours. And the idea of it is, like you could say what you want to be, what you want to do. You could say, this is my goal. But the thing is, the fact remains, you don't know that that's going to happen. And those people, like, you can't conflate focus with tunnel vision. Focus is being present in the conscious allocation or direction of our efforts. This is what I'm doing, so this is what I'm going to do. Right? The Jim Rohn, wherever you are, be there. Right? So focus is the ability to not make ourselves vulnerable to distraction. But focus is not to be conflated with tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is we separate or isolate ourselves from any other feedback pertaining to the landscape in which we're operating. So when you have tunnel vision, you wind up ignoring information. Some of that very well could be good information that could perhaps have you make a better decision in where you should be going. I always talk about the funny scene from The Office where Dwight, the crazy one, is driving, and he's got the GPS. A bunch of them are in the car, and the GPS is saying to go straight, but he's about to drive into a lake, and they're all screaming at him. You're driving into a lake, and he's screaming. The GPS says go straight. The GPS goes straight. Well, that is the example, the comedic example of what tunnel vision looks like. So now here's the thing. Both of them can equally be dedicated or determined to get to the goal. But if we are not focused on the process, we will be driving into lakes, so to speak. So you have that individual there. She obviously has a bunch of issues. She is going through some trauma. She has, of course, an overlapped, relationship with narcissism and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you caught when she was talking about the manager, all of a sudden the tears and the super, crying emotion, like all of that, like got switched off for a second because she became a bitch, ratting out that manager. So a lot of this is performance, right? A lot of it is narcissistically based. But that being said, I do believe that she is a dysfunctional individual. So when you have somebody like her, okay, she's overwhelmed. She's saying there's only 4 of us here and there's all these customers and I don't know what to do. Well, if somebody were to say to her, and I'll use this woman as an example because it's so fucking entertaining, that's how dysfunctional she is. What if somebody were to tell her, well, how about we train a little bit more so that you have a more powerful grasp of the systems that are at your disposal so that you can handle this, without an issue? How about we do a bunch of other things concurrently to maybe just have you feel better about yourself in general so you're not so close to that sort of threshold of dysfunction when it comes to anxiety? Another one of my programs, the bucket model, I talk about the metaphor of a bucket when it comes to, an individual carrying their stress and anxiety and trauma, and how at some point, that bucket overflows. And that's usually when a catharsis is necessary, whether they like it or not. and it's somebody just sometimes crying, it's sometimes somebody having a heart attack, somebody just, having a psychotic break, somebody just like, there's a whole bunch of different ways that these individuals will not be, or will have to deal with the fact that their bucket's overflowing. But how about strategies so that she is less likely to become dysfunctionally traumatized, or it's harder to make her overwhelmed, right? So she's not interested in that, though. She's not interested in that because individuals like her, they talk about the goal. They talk about the goal. They don't talk about, you know, why the goal is valuable, because usually the pursuit of it forges an individual into something, has an individual accumulate something that at that point there is an entire, landscape of reality that is really, reduced to the goal, and the goal getting credit for all of that. The black belt in jujitsu, the black belt. Oh, this guy's a black belt. Look at him grapple. Look at him. Oh, look at his techniques. Oh, he's so incredible. Look at how he's manhandling that guy. And oh, it's so great. And you know, I wish I was a black belt. Yeah, it's it's like it's a process, and when you're done with that process, you'll be able to do those things too. Well, how do I know I'm past that? It's not because you have a black belt. It's because you could do all those things, right? The actual black belt doesn't give you the ability to do all those things. But a lot of times what happens is because of the goal, the product, getting also aside from, being connected to maybe capabilities that an individual has, but also socially, tribally, there is so much status given to certain individuals. They a lot of times don't even care for the product. They just want the status or the attention, the energy they get just by having that product. Now, the problem with that, obviously, and I've gone into some detail, about that so far, is that you have an individual who just winds up not getting the benefit of enduring processes in their lives. And the byproduct of the endurance of those processes is you develop a functional relationship with discomfort versus pain. So people have it easy because people want what they want, they don't want to earn it. And by getting it in this surplus society, we also, concurrent to giving them stuff they haven't earned, we also don't supplement these individuals with any process to make them stronger like the original process would have made them. Right? So, what else is going on here? All right. Jack says, "What's up, Jack?" He says they could only survive within the aquarium. That's right. That's right. I mean, you literally could look at aquariums. When I decided to use that metaphor for society, it was with a lot of different observations that just worked. And one of them is, you can get an aquarium and you could get a level of diversity in the aquarium and be able to maintain it in a way that everything's sustainable. But it's not sustainable because the dynamics of everybody in the aquarium, every creature in a literal aquarium. It's because there's an aquarium with every creature in it and an outsider making sure the shit always works. Without that third party, none of this works. Right? So that's the thing about the aquarium, is that there is somebody who is taking care of it. So an individual like that woman who's having a nervous breakdown because at work she's being expected to work, you know, you have a society right now that supports her. And without society's support, she doesn't do very well. Stick her right now in some, war torn or third world country. Like there's no time for these things that she's talking about. Like I remember, uh, being locked up as a teenager, right? And Not that I had an issue with this reality to begin with, but one of the things you realize there is there are some rules, and if you don't follow those rules, there's an immediate consequence. And the consequence is non negotiable. Your preference plays absolutely no role in whether or not you are going to be exposed to the consequence. The level of accountability is direct, it's clear. And people learn that very quickly. If I told, you, hey, do me a favor, don't touch that door. The knob, the door, don't touch it. You're going to be in the room. At some point, you might want to leave, and you're going to go, you know what? Fuck that. I'm fucking leaving. And you open the door and go. I asked you to do it. You left. There's no consequence. Put you in a room again. Ask you again. Hey, you left last time. Do me a favor. I'll be back eventually. Just don't leave. You might do the same thing. But now let's say the first time I take somebody new and I put you in a room. You're new now. And I say, hey, I don't want you to leave the room. If you touch this door, it's set up to, a bunch of batteries, and it's going to shock you and it'll probably kill you. So don't touch the door. I'll be back when I'm back. But as soon as you touch that door, it's going to shock you and kill you. The only time you would open that door is if you were willing to die to get out of the room. At no point, if that is understood to be the reality, are you going to say, well, this isn't right, this isn't fair? Because you're not going to talk to a battery. You're not going to talk to a door. You're not going to talk to something that you cannot negotiate a different consequence for. These are just rules that are in front of you, and you understand it. I remember one time being on the train in the Bronx. This is probably in the 90s. And I'm in my 20s. I'm sitting down, and there's one of these crazy, EDP fucking batshit dudes walking through the train cars. And he's looking at people and, probably, on some outpatient, psycho fucking program. And, they give him a fucking Metro car. Who the fuck knows? The guy was crazy. And he was, looking at people, threatening people. And I'm sitting there in my 20s. And at some point, he makes eye contact with me, and I'm looking right at him. And he looks at me, and I go, you ain't that fucking crazy. And he immediately just turns away, and he goes into the next car. And it's like, see, this motherfucker does this because he's getting away with it. At some point, and this is what needs to be understood too, another variable here, another dynamic, is that these individuals who are using such dysfunctional formulas, understand the context. When we are saying dysfunctional, we mean if they weren't being taken care of. But the reason why we're now going down these specialized rabbit holes of dysfunction with some of these individuals and the archetypes that they tend to resemble is that these are now representing formulas that win in this society. So we have a society that, we could say all day long, this young lady who's losing her shit, who thinks she's a man because she has a mustache and a beard. It's like, if you ever been around some old Italian ladies, what are you talking about? Doesn't make you a dude. You're literally crying because you're overwhelmed at work. Like, what about you thinks that you're a man? That as an aside, we have this individual, though, who is running a formula that obviously has helped her prior to this. Obviously, she has wanted some sort of result. This was the process that she enacted, and she's gotten those consequences in the form of rewards, in the form of a goal, achieving a goal. Like, they're things she wanted to do. Very similar in dynamic in concept is the athlete, right? In inner city schools, like, I've known a shit ton of them. They can't fucking read. They can't write. They can't do math, but they're fucking basketball or football superstars. And for some reason, they keep getting promoted to the next grade. And we tell them, you should learn how to write. You should learn how to read. Why would they do that? We are teaching them that they don't have to do that. When we are telling them to do that, they're looking at us like we are liars. So understand, like this young lady who has this dysfunctional relationship with pressure and discomfort, when we tell her she should get her shit together and she should work on herself, and Like, she looks at us like we're liars because at every point in her life, acting like this has gotten her what she wanted. Because if it didn't, she would no longer do this, right? It could be argued, and again, I'm not a licensed, psychologist or therapist or anything, but it could be argued that when people become suicidal, it's because their formulas no longer work. They no longer have a formula to navigate reality in a way that gets them the results that they want. But so long as these things are working, and here's a little overlap with, I'll use this young lady's case as an example. Like, what happens when these people are so dysfunctional in their formulas, but they're constantly placated, and then those dysfunctional formulas no longer work, and we're no longer willing to accommodate a more extreme and exacerbated, a more intense version of this dysfunctional formula. Well, what happens when we're like, yeah, we're not going to do that? The girl who thinks she's a man, walks up to your child and says, I I I think that's my child. The boy that you have, that's my son. I need my son. That I know that's I identify as that child's, mother or father, she would say, right? Like, at some point we're gonna go, yeah, no. Well, what happens if they don't understand how to register that? If they wanted a son and they used a formula that they're familiar with, and obviously I'm making shit up here, but it's the concepts and the dynamics that I'm trying to give the value for. Like, what happens when these people have been using dysfunctional formulas for such a long period of time and getting what they wanted, that they're now at an area where they can no longer get what they want? Like, wouldn't it kind of make sense that this person is either going to go one of two directions? Either I have to become more functional, or I don't like this game anymore. I want to stop playing it. What do you expect? All right, let's get to some comments here. One of Big Pharma's permanent customers. Yeah, and that's another dynamic, another variable involved in this that allows these people to maintain this level of dysfunction. Jack says, create a problem and sell them the solution. Again, winning formula, right? Winning formula. FL Treasure, what's up? Says, another great stream promoting strong, healthy mindset and behavior. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Don't conflate focus with tunnel vision. Absolutely. And it pays to know the difference. Replace entitlement with personal responsibility. Or, as I've mentioned before, and I think, Corey, you were on a couple of these streams, replace entitlement with gratitude, right? When we have gratitude, we're acknowledging the assets and opportunities we have in front of us. And that maintains, when we have a lifestyle, a mindset of gratitude that's based in gratitude, what goes along with that is awareness. We're taking inventory of everything that's going on every day. It's very hard for dysfunctional narratives to propagate themselves if every single day we're taking inventory of the landscape. It's hard to sort of tell ourselves these stories that are, making us a victim or making us the target of some, nefarious, conspiracy of the universe or other individuals, known or unknown. Like, when we take inventory of our landscape every day, we say, these are the assets, these are the opportunities, these are the things that I'm going to be grateful for because I see them here. Well, we're doing that on a regular basis. It's very hard to pretend something is there that isn't for very long, right? When we are entitled, remember, when we are entitled, we are saying we know the future. We are fortune tellers. We are telling the future. We are entitled to this. This is going to happen. This is supposed to happen. This is going to happen. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to have gratitude for it, because this is a debt that the universe, that life in general, is paying me because it is owed to me, right? So entitlement we reject by showing gratitude on a regular basis. Personal responsibility is absolutely, hand in hand with that, Oscar says, you may not have a degree, but you're definitely a psychologist. I appreciate I appreciate the compliment. Corey says people who are either too mentally or physically weak for hard labor are convinced they are owed a position in this kind of work. And I agree. I agree. And obviously, it's always going to be a percentage, and there's a significant percentage of people who are absolutely like that. And I think lost in their positions and in their entitlements is the very fragile nature of the environment that they're benefiting from. It's like the whole saying, this is why we can't have nice things, because somebody always ruins it. And that's exactly what you're seeing in these people in society today, whether they're doing it consciously or otherwise. Like, this is the end result. It doesn't matter what their intentions is. If you look in Tribalnomics, my book, the traitor, the in-tribe traitor, can be the enemy, but it could also be the fool, right? What makes one not the other is intention. The enemy, the in-tribe, internal to the tribe member who is an enemy, is a traitor in a way that he understands. The fool in tribe is a traitor that does not understand what he's doing. If anything, the fool thinks they're helping. They just don't know any better, right? So these people that are physically weak, yeah, they're reduced to a subset of opportunities to earn a living, right? To attain self-sufficiency. And if they don't have the ability, or there's not the availability to do that, the first thing they're going to think is somebody owes them something, because they also know that they can't survive the other way. Wade, currently in Iraqi Kurdistan, I'd like to see a study comparing anxiety and depression rates between here and the US. Absolutely. People who are depressed, and this is something that, I'll get people fucking arguing with me all day long, but it's par for the course. But depression, number one, needs some free bandwidth to fester and grow. If you're somebody who's got too much shit to do, you don't have time to allow these narratives, these abstract narratives and stories, to sort of spin and spiral downward in your subconscious to the point where it's actually affecting your relationship with your life. You got too much shit to do. Don't think for a second that, and you can look at the trans kids, right? The cross-dressing teenagers and such, and how they've exponentially been growing over the last 20 years. To say that that is not socially driven is to be dishonest at this point. At this point, that there's not really an argument to be had where the other side holds any water. Like, to say that, well, because some people try to explain it away by saying, well, there are a lot of kids who are always trans, but now it's safe for them to do it. And that's why it's like, even if I wanted to concede that that was a phenomenon, you're telling me it's quadrupling, 500% increase in the last 20 years, something like that. You're telling me that is a product of all these. It's like, so what's the consequence that you thought was going to happen prior to that? They were killing themselves, or they were on drugs, or they had to live miserable lives, and but now they could be free. Well, then you'd have to go in history and show me where all those consequences of these trans kids not being able to say that they're trans. You got to show me in history where those consequences were obvious, where they were apparent. Show me where all these kids were doing this because of that. It just doesn't hold any weight, right? So looking at where we are in society right now, you have a bunch of people that are battling depression. And it's usually, again, a multivariate dilemma, right? My favorite phrases, because people tend to create these dichotomies a lot of times, and inaccurately. You have a bunch of people who are growing weaker, who are incentivized to become weaker still, who are getting a social pressure from peers who are experiencing those same influencers in the environments, and everything's just spiraling down as a result of it. So, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to become a lot more functional in our relationship with discomfort. I've said before, power, self power, when an individual is powerful, I think we do the idea a disservice when we talk about how that individual is powerful because they can influence their surroundings. This guy's a powerful guy. Why? He's a billionaire. Okay. Put him in the middle of the jungle uh, with a basic, survival kit, whatever that is. You can define it yourself. Um, and a lot of, bad actors and predators and things that don't want him to live. Let's see how powerful he is then, right? I wouldn't say he's powerful in that environment necessarily because he's a billionaire. He might very well be. That individual might be, but not because he's a billionaire, right? So we have to be careful with how we label these terms and all of the energy and the connotations that we assign to them. It's like, this guy's powerful because he gets to change his environment. Well, remember, I'm the guy that has the saying, it's easier to fix the boat than it is to calm the sea. Well, if you think being powerful is having influence over your environment, well, you're somebody who's advocating for the goal being calming the sea. Good luck with that. I define being powerful as being able to maintain your identity despite the landscape. This guy's powerful. How do I know? Because I could put him in a business meeting and he's solid. Put him in charge of protecting a group and he's solid. I could put him in the middle of the forest or the jungle and he's solid. I could put him in charge of taking care of a newborn baby and he's solid. He'll figure it out. That's a powerful dude. That's a powerful dude. So we become powerful. I think it's easy to, the easy way to go about it is we assess our relationship with discomfort. When we see ourselves as being in pain, remember, that's when we're starting to opt out of other things. When we are being overwhelmed, we're going to start opting out because we need to address that trauma, right? That discomfort, which is now painful. So when that's happening to us, where are we on the ladder? Are we functional? Would we be able to survive with this current level of pain threshold? Or should we find a way to toughen ourselves up? That's the priority. The next thing is the process. So many people are trying to, the money. I got to make money. I got to make money. Listen, you got to make money. I get it. I've got 4 kids. I got a wife and 4 kids. But you got to understand when you treat money like it's the goal or like it's the God, right? Or it's made of the God stuff, right? This is the thing that is going to influence me. This is the thing that's going to get me to where I'm going to go, where I need to be. It's going to make me moral. Its acquisition is going to add morality and value to my existence. When people treat money like that, what they don't understand is whoever has the money will always be able to control their efforts. Whoever has money owns them. Pursuing money for the things that you think money are going to give you says nothing of who you are by the criteria of becoming powerful that I just described a few moments ago. You can have all the money in the world. I throw you into jail. You got a problem. You can have all the money in the world. I throw you in the middle of a jungle. You got a problem. If I throw you in an MMA cage, you got a problem. If you and your missus are, you have 2 guys run into your house with firearms looking to rob or do worse, like you got a problem. If the only thing you have is money, right? I think it was, it might've been John Calton. It could be somebody else that first said the phrase, having money will only solve the problems that not having money created. And if I could add an addendum to that, it is, you'd be surprised how few problems are actually created by not having money. Right? So to sort of follow that sentiment, you therefore be surprised how few problems that having money is going to solve. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate you guys. This is a great talk. I had fun, doing it is what I mean. But I appreciate you guys participating and hanging out with me every Wednesday. I am here every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, either on the TRIBALNOMICS YouTube page or the Justin Garcia Facebook page or the Master Chim Facebook page. But masterchim.com, put your email in. That and all other relevant links to stuff I'm up to is in the descriptions, no matter where you're watching it. And I will be here next week. So thank you all for hanging out with me. And as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to power.